Good day, everyone, and welcome to this webinar. My name is Martin Damon, and today I'll show you how to use our axle weight calculator for semi-trailer and B-double combinations. In our previous webinar, we covered the basics of how to use the app and how to configure a rigid vehicle. In this session, we'll work through some of the more advanced features relating to regulations and building your own trailers. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to your questions and feedback. I'm joined today by my colleague Jens Helberg and also Tony Hodges, our TruckScience agent for Australia. Jens and Tony will moderate the chat and answer your questions as we go through the session. At this point, I'll ask Tony to jump in and introduce himself. Tony.
Hi everyone, it's a beautiful chilly day in Melbourne. Obviously I'm Melbourne based in Australia, so as the Australian agent for TruckScience. So if you need any local assistance and help or guidance, we've got someone here that can help me out. So yeah, just give me a call.
Thanks, Tony. Here's an overview of what we'll cover. I'll show you how to configure a prime mover with a fifth wheel and trailers. We'll determine the maximum payload whilst staying within the manufacturer and legal limits. And I'll point out some of the features that relate specifically to trailer combinations. To demonstrate these features, I'll take you through a live demo now. In the first scenario, we'll do a prime mover with a drop deck trailer that's going to carry a 25-ton excavator. And then we'll build our own refrigerated B-double combination to carry about 38 tons of payload, and that'll be a 12 and 22 pallet combination. Okay, so to start the demo, I will share my screen with you. Remember to log in to the app from our website, our homepage, truckscience.com. Once we're logged in, we can select our vehicle. For our first scenario with the drop deck trailer, we'll choose an Iveco, Stralis X-Way, 6x4, and then we'll pick the, and we might even filter this a little bit further. So we've got another option here, type, to filter down on prime movers only. That leaves us with 3 models. We'll choose the active time cab, 460 horsepower, and open that vehicle. You'll notice that this vehicle does not yet have a fifth wheel on it, so that's one of the first items of equipment that we'll need to add. But other than that, all the dimensions are provided, and the chassis mass and the fuel gets added as well. So to add the fifth wheel, we'll go to the menu on the left and choose the fifth wheel. We've got a few standard or manufacturer-specific fifth wheels in our public library. For this example, I'll use a fifth wheel template. One of the important attributes of the fifth wheel is actually the fifth wheel height from the ground. This is something that's quite good to check with the trailer manufacturer to make sure you've got the right fifth wheel height and fifth wheel for the trailer. So for this particular example, I want to increase my height from the ground slightly. I'll just change my subframe to 102 millimeters. That'll give me a fifth wheel height of 1350, which will be suitable for the trailer that I have in mind here. Okay, we can close the menu, the equipment menu, and then go down to trailers. Now, this is the first time we're looking at trailers. So we've got trailer 1 and trailer 2. So we'll start off with trailer 1, and we'll choose a semi-trailer. So these are the different trailer types we cater for: dog, pig, your A trailer or lead B double, semi, which will also be your B trailer or rear B double. So we'll choose a semi. Now, as with equipment, which we've already covered in the previous webinar, we have template items, personal items that you can save to your library, or items in the team library, and then items in the public library. I'll specifically choose a trailer from the public library. You'll see a couple of recognized trailer manufacturers in our database here. For this example, I've spoken to Beaver Tail Trailers and worked with them on this particular trailer. This is a 3-axle drop deck with an aggregate trailer mass of 40 tons and a 25-ton legal payload carrying capacity. So let's add that trailer. You'll see the graphic represents the actual trailer far better than using a template trailer. Also, the tear mass of the trailer will be specified in this case. So it's quite important to note that a drop deck is a fair bit heavier than a normal semi-trailer. You'll see in this case 9.5 tons, which is even slightly heavier than the prime mover. To add our excavator, we'll go to Payload. So you'll notice once we've added a trailer, there are a few more options on the left here. Payload for the trailer. Just to highlight this menu on the left here, all the vehicle icons are always shown. For example, the vehicle for the body, the equipment on the vehicle, and the payload on the vehicle. Then you have that separator for trailer 1 and trailer 2. And when we're on trailer 1, there'll be a few more options for trailer 1. And if we toggle to trailer 2 later, we'll see some changes to the menu again. So we'll start off with the payload. By default, we have a simple payload or water level load across the deck. But in this case, we want to change this to a detailed payload item. And again, we can choose from our library. Let's search for a digger. And I'll give you an example of an item that's perhaps slightly too big for this trailer. Let's add this Komatsu digger. Okay, so that's a huge piece of equipment. Weighs just over 40 tons and will overload our combination by a fair margin, almost 20 tons. So this is obviously not, this trailer combination is not suitable for this size of digger. So what we'll do is we'll remove that again. So I can just click on it in the graphic, which will open it up in the menu, and I can remove that. So what we'll do is we'll search for maybe an excavator. And we'll pick this mini hydraulic excavator right facing. You can just drag that over to the middle of the deck. Drop it about there. You'll notice this particular excavator has a mass of just over 10 tons. For the purpose of this exercise, I will override that to make this 25 tons. So I can just click on that payload, which will take me to the quantity for this item. Quantity, the unit of measure is specified as kilograms. So we will just change that to 25,000 kilograms. And I'll just close that menu again so I can show you the effect of that. We're still slightly over on the permissible total and slightly over on the trailer rear axles. We can move the excavator forward, and notice whilst I'm moving it, how it shifts the overload to the rear axle on the prime mover. And if I move it further back, the trailer axles are overloaded. So now we can ask ourselves a few questions on how to get this rig into, how to get this legal to the 25-ton capacity. So we'll look at some of the regulations just now. Before we do that, I might just add a bullbar to the front of my prime mover. To do that, I'll go to the equipment menu for the vehicle, add another item. Let's pick a bullbar. We'll just take a sample bullbar small. We have a few different ones, Whitlock, AJ's. For this one, I'm just going to take a small bullbar, which will be attached near the front, and I can click and drag it and mount it over the bumper. All right, let's have a look at our legal limits here. To get this within legal, we could look at changing our application for the regulation. To do that, I can click on this compliance scorecard where you can see that we overloaded on permissible, and that'll give us the options for regulation. So we have the Australian regulations. We have a few different ones, and I'll also show you the New Zealand regulations in a few minutes. But we'll start off with Australia. and the application will be general mass limits. Let's toggle through concessional and higher mass limits just to show you the effect that that has. Concessional mass limits, just note that this requires accreditation under the National Heavy Vehicle Accreditation Scheme. Select OK, that rating gets applied. Notice that the trailer axle increases from 20 tons to 21 tons, and the rear on the prime mover from 16.5 to 17, and we've always had the 6.5 on the steering. So even though the sum of these axles is actually 44.5 tons, we are limited to, in this case, 1 ton more than what's allowed under the general mass limits. So that's why from 43 we go up to 44. So just to show you that again, I'll toggle back to the general mass limits. Okay, so we start at 6.5, 16.5, 20, and 43. Note that by default, the permissible for this rig is normally 42.5. However, because we have the extra 500 kilograms on the steering axle, that increase is already applied to the permissible. That's why it's sitting at 43,000. Okay, then for concessional, we'll toggle to that again. Increases from 16.5 to 17 to 21 and 44. So we're almost legal. We could move the excavator slightly forward and we'll probably get legal on all the axles. An important thing to note with concessional mass limits is that they do not require road-friendly suspensions for the higher rating on the axles. Even though this is a road-friendly suspension, the trailer does not have a road-friendly suspension. So if we change from concessional mass limits to higher mass limits, remember under higher mass limits, road-friendly suspensions are required. Hence, the rear trailer axle drops back to 20 tons. So to get that full advantage out of higher mass limits, we can click on that 20,000 limit to see how it's derived. And then you'll notice here, we've got the manufacturer rating, 24 tons, rear road friendly suspension, no. We can actually set that to yes. I have checked the spec sheet of this trailer with the manufacturer, and there is an option for an air suspension for road friendly suspension. So if you toggle that to yes, you'll notice the increase on the trailer axle. And close that again. And that also pushes our total permissible to 45 tons. That's also an interesting one because the sum of axles in this scenario is actually 46 tons. So taking the original 42.5 ton limit and adding all the increases of the axles, we would actually arrive at 46 tons. However, for this particular vehicle, the limit is 45 tons because of the gross combination mass of the vehicle. So, for example, if this prime mover had a gross combination mass rating of 50,000, like that, then the legal would actually be 46, so the lesser of. So lesser of legal and the manufacturer rating would give us 46. I'll deselect that overridden value to go back to the original. So we'll stick to the 45 tons for this calculation. Let's close that. Okay, so in this scenario, we're legal across all the axles. Let's have a look at the New Zealand regulations to see how this rig would fare there. So we can change the regulations to New Zealand. Notice that the axle limits are a fair bit lower, 6 tons on the front axle, 15 on the rear, and 18 on the tridem of the trailer, and the total 39,000. So we'd have to reduce the payload by about 4.5 tons to run this rig legally in New Zealand. So always keep an eye on the scorecard on the left. That will highlight any overload scenarios or dimensions that exceed the legal limits. For this example, we'll toggle back to Australia and higher mass limits. will take us back to the 45 tons. Some of the other features we can view on the right. There are different view options. There's the axle spacing that's designed to protect the bridges. So you can see all the axle spacing groups, the permissibles and the actual values, center of gravity, summary. So a technical report for an engineer to see all the center of gravity positions of all the individual items. These can be clicked on and off. So for example, if I click on the bullbar, it will show me the bullbar's center of gravity from the front axle and from the ground. I can click that off again to remove it if it creates too much clutter. Turning radius. Let's select the regulation turning radius. You'll see that we show this vehicle turning at a radius of 12.5 meters to the outer edge of the tire. That also gives you the inner turning radius, so you can calculate the actual road width required for the turn. You can toggle back to side view and maybe top view if we'd like to position the excavator laterally across the deck, so you can move it laterally to the center of the deck. Back to side view. Okay, I think I will ask Jens if there are any questions, and but I'll also still show you the preview, save, and share. So I'll move on to the preview. Jens, are there any questions at this point?
No, not at the moment.
So please type any questions that you have into the chat, and we'll monitor those. In the preview, we can specify the prepared for details. We can select certain pages that we want to include or exclude, and refresh our report. And there are handy options to download, print, and email the report. So once the PDF is generated, you'll find the print, download, and email. Download is probably the most commonly used. Download the PDF to maybe your downloads folder, and then you can open it up in Adobe. So there's the PDF. All the details are provided on the subsequent pages. Then I want to spend a little bit of time on the save and share. So let's save this calculation, and I'll just save this as today's demo. Once I've saved the calculation, I can also share this with my colleagues. So there's an option to collaborate with colleagues, bodybuilders, trailer manufacturers, dealers. So in this example, I'll just invite Jens, my colleague, and share the calculation with him. I can add a few comments. I could say, yeah, please check the calculation and get back to me, and click on invite now. Jens will get an email from which he can easily open this calculation to review it and send me his revisions. At the moment, these shared calculations, so my calculation that I've saved cannot be edited by Jens. Jens can open it, make changes to it, save it as his own calculation, and share it back with me. So there's this kind of read-only privilege that I've assigned to Jens. So in the next update, we will provide the option for you to allow your colleagues to actually change your calculation. So it's effectively the same as saving a calculation into a shared folder for everybody at your company, where they can then make changes and keep those calculations up to date and as relevant as possible. Okay, Jens, anything else before we move on?
No, not at this stage. Yeah, everyone seems good.
Okay, so that's it for the semi-trailer combination. For now, I'll go back to home to select a new prime mover for our second scenario. So remember to select home if you want to change the vehicle or the whole calculation. Don't close the browser. So we'll go home, and I'll reset my filter options to go back to the default. And for this calculation with the B double, we'll choose a Mercedes-Benz, Actros, 6x4, and then I'll filter on prime mover again. You'll notice there's some handy descriptions that come with these vehicles: single trailer, B double. So certain vehicles are better suited for certain trailer combinations. So if we type in here B double, it'll filter out the vehicles that are suitable for this type of trailer. For our calculation, we'll use the 2663. We'll open that up. And again, note that the vehicle does not have a fifth wheel, but the correct graphic dimensions and all the masses. So again, we'll start off by adding the fifth wheel from equipment. I'll choose the fifth wheel template because for this particular scenario, I also have a very specific fifth wheel in mind to get within the 4.3 meter overall height limit. So in this scenario, I'll make the subframe 152, giving it slightly lower height from the ground than in the previous example, 1326, which will work out quite nicely with our trailer. So we'll start off with trailer 1, which will be our lead B double, our A trailer. For this example, I will actually use the template feature to show you how to build up your own trailer. So whilst we do have a few trailers in the public library that you might recognize in the list, I will use a 3-axle template. By default, we provide some sample dimensions and weights for the trailer. You can easily change these. We can click on the trailer again to open a menu and then run through all the length, height, and width dimensions. So I'll just change a few. I'll make the front overhang 1430. We'll change the wheelbase to about 8,000. Remember, we're trying to put together a 12 and 22 pallet combination. So it will obviously not be easy to design a trailer from scratch if you don't have a template to work off. And for this type of design of your trailers, it's handy to be talking to a trailer manufacturer or to have a drawing from the trailer manufacturer in front of you that you can effectively copy into the software. Trailer length, kingpin, fifth wheel offset. We'll move it behind the center of the bogie. And then the height. Well, the important one here is the fifth wheel height at the back. So that's 1250, so it's a little bit lower than the fifth wheel at the front, which will give us a little bit more internal height in the body at the rear. The width will leave at 2.5 meters. Masses, so once we've done dimensions, we can move over to masses and axles, kingpin and the rear. So for the kingpin, we calculate a default chassis mass. And in this case, 750 kilograms. And for the rear, it's about 4.8 tons. So we take a simple formula of so much length of steel and so much weight per axle, and obviously the fifth wheel, to determine how much of that total mass sits on the rear and how much on the kingpin. This calculation is not 100% accurate, obviously, and can be, that's why you can override these values. So you can override the chassis mass values here, specify your own ones, especially if you're assembling a combination from a trailer that's manufactured by one supplier and a body that's manufactured by somebody else. For our scenario, I'll leave the defaults for now. So 750 on the front, 4.7 on the rear. But what I will do is I'll change the axle to a road-friendly suspension. So I'll just toggle that to yes. And that's all we need to specify for the chassis of the lead B double. The next step will be to add the body. So we'll add a box van body. And to show you a bit of variety in terms of techniques or methods of adding a body, we'll use the import a DXF feature. So assuming that we have a DXF file on our desktop, in this case I have a 12 pallet body as a DXF file. It's a very basic drawing, but I'm going to import it. So we can only currently cater for fairly simple DXF drawings. If there's anything inside the drawing that we don't recognize, such as text, we'll just truncate it. So the file size needs to be less than a megabyte and just a simple two-dimensional drawing. We can then run this through a wizard. Next, we can place it at the X and Y 0. Then we can specify the length and height. So we can scale this, this drawing. So let's make the length 7.5 meters. And the headboard, let's say 50, the tailboard 100 for the rear doors. The height will actually be scaled automatically now. So we've got 7.5 length, 2.9 almost for the height. We will add, specify the substructure height for the floor as being 150 and the roof 100. The width, we'll make it 2.5 meters. Sidewall left and right will be 50. And then the mass of the body, we'll get that from the bodybuilder, let's say in this case 2,700 kilograms. Center of gravity of the body and center of gravity of the payload can also be specified. And then in the last step, we can give it a description. So we'll just call it a 12 pallet body. 7 add. That body gets added to our chassis with the correct body mass. And now we already get a payload calculated. Okay, we still need to add the fridge unit in the second trailer. So to add the fridge unit, we'll continue on the left. Equipment, fridge. And I'll search for a Thermo King. It's Thermo King XL400. Just type in a few characters there. And we'll pick this standby model. We'll attach that fridge unit to the front. And that'll add quite a bit of weight to the kingpin tear. Then we can move on to trailer 2. Depending on how much time we've got, okay, we could actually build this using similar techniques. To save a little bit of time, I've already built this up earlier on and saved it to my personal library. So under my personal library, I'll select my B trailer. Alternatively, I could go to template and build it up from scratch. I'll just pick that B trailer. There it is with the fridge unit on, and in this case, a 13.5 meter body. And by default, we now already see a payload, in this case of about 31 tons. Before we go into the finer details of getting the payload maximized, I want to just show you the overall length at the top. You'll notice that we're sitting at 25.5 meters. For this particular combination, the legal limit is 26 meters. In some scenarios, the length limit may be limited to 25 meters. Just to point out one of those attributes that affects that 25 and 26 meter overall length limit. So one of them is that the dimension from the articulation point on the front trailer, so from the kingpin on the front trailer to the back of the trailer, may not exceed 20.6 meters. So in that case, we could go up to 26 meters. If that dimension exceeds 20.6 meters, we will be limited to 25 meters. So that's something to keep in mind. So what we'll do, maybe just to demonstrate that, I will increase, at the moment, this dimension, although we're not showing it here, the dimension is actually 20.4 meters. So if we had to increase this wheelbase for the front trailer, or let's say 300 millimeters, that would push us over the 20.6 meter limit and now apply the 25 meter maximum for the overall length. We can also see that under notes and warnings. If we go to the warnings tab, overall length exceeds legislative limit of 25 meters. Okay, so we can undo that change and just click on undo to revert back to our 8 meter wheelbase. And that will now give us the 26 meter overall length again. Let's add a bullbar to the front of this vehicle as well. We'll go back to the vehicle equipment, add bullbar. Let's choose a Whitlock bullbar. And we'll attach it to the front. Just to demonstrate if the overall length had to go beyond 26 meters, again, the warning will show if we go beyond 26. I'll bring that bullbar closer, and we'll be well within the 26 meters. Okay, we can have a look at some of the other dimensions. The fifth wheel, what we notice here is that the front axle is right on the limit. So just to free up a little bit of carrying capacity on the front axle, I will change the fifth wheel offset. I can just click on the dimension to take me to the fifth wheel offset, and we'll move it back to 150 millimeters. So just to take a little bit of weight off that front axle. So that gets us back into legal, or below the legal on the front axle, and gives us a legal payload of 31 tons, where the limiting factor can now be seen to be this trailer axle. So to increase our payload carrying capability, we can again toggle to the different mass limits. I'll go straight to higher mass limits. Select OK. Notice how that'll change from 63 tons to 68.5 when I apply it. So 68.5. So all the increases that are given to the front axle and the individual axle groups are added to the very original 62.5 ton limit to get us all the way up to 68.5 tons. And under these conditions, we can get to a payload of almost 38 tons. Let's show you some of the advanced features for payload. I'll go back to trailer 1. So notice when I toggle between trailer 1 and trailer 2, what happens here on the left. So I've got all the trailer 1 icons available to me. If I click on trailer 2, I get all the trailer 2 options, and the trailer 1 concertina is basically collapsed. So I'll click on trailer 1 again, and then payload. Choose detailed payload. Let's choose 12 pellets. So we have a saved setup of 12 standard Australian pellets, 1165 by 1165. Just to show it more graphically, we can change the mass of that from the default of 15,000. Let's change that to about 13.5 tons. And we can move the pellets to distribute them or leave a small gap behind the headboard. Then for the second trailer, we can click on trailer 2, payload, change from simple to detailed, and we'll search for a 22 pellet bank. And we'll apply a mass of, let's say, 24.5 tons. Obviously taking a bit of a shortcut method here to add my pellets by using these combinations of pellets and specifying the overall mass of the entire set of pellets. What you can do is you can add these pellets individually. You can position them left and right across the deck. So for example, if we toggle to the top view, it's just a little bit time consuming. So for this demonstration, I will only show these pellet banks. So in the top view, you could place individual pellets, place them left and right, and then also have different masses for different pellets. So you might want to position heavier pellets at the rear, lighter ones at the front, or the other way around to absolutely optimize the distribution over the axles. So in this scenario, we're still slightly over on that axle on the trailer, so we can move the pellets back a little bit further until we get rid of that overload. So we're still not fully utilizing the 68.5 tons, so we're under by about just over a ton. So we could probably get 39 tons of payload onto this combination, but practically it gets very difficult to distribute all the pellets in such a way that all the axle groups are maxed out simultaneously. But if we have a bit of time, and from in terms of the logistics and loading, we can achieve that, then we could probably get to about 39 tons. Okay, we've got about another 10 or so minutes left. Maybe leave another 5 minutes for questions. So I'll just spend a few more minutes on showing you some advanced features for trailers. One of them would be specifying the actual tear mass of the trailer. So to do this, I'll just change my view on the right here from the overview to, let's say, trailer 2. So that'll show me the detailed breakdown of the trailer weight. So from the chassis mass plus the body plus the fridge unit to give us the total unladen trailer. So in this case, we've calculated or allowed the program to calculate this for us. In the scenario where your trailer manufacturer has given you a drawing or the actual kingpin tear and the rear tear, or if you are a trailer manufacturer and you know your exact tear masses, you can actually override these values. And I'll show you how to do that because it is a little bit tricky. So under trailer 2 for the chassis, we have that option. Remember, I pointed it out earlier under masses and axles, where we can override kingpin and rear. So if I know the actual mass, I'm going to do it under the chassis and then zero out the body mass and the fridge mass. So the kingpin tear will be, let's say, 3,500. So slightly different to what we have there. And then for the rear, we'll make it 7,000. Remember, we still need to zero out the body and the fridge. So in this scenario now, the chassis mass is 3.5 front, rear 7, total 10.5. If we remove the body and fridge unit mass, that will then become our overall trailer mass. So we'll go to the body and we'll change it to 0. Notice that will drop to 0, and then we'll go to the fridge unit and do the same. It'll give us our required front and rear and total tear mass for the trailer. So just a nice way to be more specific about your weights if you have an actual trailer drawing from the manufacturer. To toggle back to the overview or a summary, to the summary of the overview, where you'll now see for trailer 2, we've got the 7 tons on the rear for the tear, and then the 3 tons split over the front axle of the prime mover, the rear, and the trailer. All right, I think we've covered everything. Jens, any more questions there?
No, it's been all quiet apart from Tom, who's complimented you on your choice of truck.
Okay, so yeah, great. I'm glad that that's worked out for you.
There's a question here. In New Zealand, they're required to show the first to last axle at once for the authorities. Can you demonstrate this?
The first to the last axle. Okay, that would be, so if we go to the bridge view, from the first axle to the end of the trailer or to the last axle?
To the last axle.
Okay, so that will be the extreme axles. So we do show that on all the trailer combinations. So if you just select this axle spacing or bridge view, you'll find it here. So in this case, it's 22 meters. And what's also, yeah, if you had to look at in the Australia, you'll find that you need at least 21 meters to get the maximum benefit out of axle spacing. And there are quite comprehensive axle spacing tables for New Zealand as well that provide these limits. if we toggling this to New Zealand, because the question is from New Zealand, I will actually just toggle this. We do not at this point cater for your high productivity motor vehicles. So in this case, the limit is probably going to come out at 44 tons. This is something that has been requested from New Zealand. It's something we haven't forgotten about. So if there are more users who need that feature, please let us know. We do prioritize features based on the number of people who request those features. So these limits can be increased under a high productivity motor vehicle permit, which we don't cater for at this point. All right, so we'll toggle that back to Australia.
And there's another question there on can we add a 4x8 dolly?
Okay, we might take that offline, just so that we can finish off within the time.
I suppose what we can also do is just hang around after the 45 minutes. We're in no rush, so if there are questions after the 45 minutes, we can get back to them all.
Yes. All right. So we've gone through the live demo. So just a summary of what we've covered. I've shown you how to configure a semi-trailer and a B-double combination. We toggle between different regulations and regulation options to see what the effect is on the legal payload. And then we covered some of the features that relate specifically to trailer combinations. We offer tiered pricing for the software. So additional users are discounted. The first user is $60 per month and additional users are $30 per month. We also offer a discount for annual payments. I recommend that after the session that you log into the app to try out some of the features that you've learned today. If you are not a user, you can register for a free trial from our homepage, TruckScience.com. It's really easy. There's nothing to install, and your trial license will be validated instantly. Okay, then if you need to get in touch with us for sales-related queries, you can contact Tony if you're in Australia, and or you can contact Sorika if you're from New Zealand. For any support queries on the app and feature requests, we recommend that you use the live chat feature, or you can also send us an email to support@truckscience.com. And maybe just to show you that live chat feature again, I'll just go back to my screen share. You'll see in the bottom right corner, you've got the chat icon. You can click on that to start a new conversation. Send us a message, and you can just say, hi, support, please assist, and send that off. And Jens will probably monitor that and type a response. So it's a great way to get in touch with us. If you need a new feature, for example, now this 8x4 dolly, you could give us an example of a screenshot of what it looks like, or maybe a spec sheet, to make it a bit easier for us to see if we can cater for something like that in the app in the future. All right, let's just close that for now. Okay, so we've come to the end of the session then. I won't end the session so that we can continue with having a look at that specific question that we had.
So maybe Tony can jump in here and answer the 4x8 dolly question, and there are a few more questions that have come up. So we'll just address them each.
Right, Felix, the 4x8. At this stage, we can currently do 4 tyres on an axle, but what we'll do is we'll add that feature in there. So as soon as we'll put that request in against your name. So everything that gets requested or any suggestions, we basically monitor those and log them. So when the features do get added, you'll be notified about it. But we can do a very similar scenario, just not with 8 tyres of 4x4 on the one axle there. And we've got another question there from Alan. We're actually getting asked more and more about A-doubles. So yeah, we'll put that in against your name there. I'm pretty sure for you we actually already do. But yeah, it's something that's we're being asked more and more about. So Jens and Martin will be the best ones to answer that in time. But you'll definitely be notified about it once it happens.
Yeah.
Okay, then,
thanks,
Martin, maybe a question for you there. From Alphonse, he asked, will you do HPMV and 50 max in future? I'm guessing that's around New Zealand legislation.
50 max, yes. I can maybe just show you the workaround for that at the moment. If there are any, for example, if we changed the regulation back to New Zealand and we needed to customize it, there is the ability to override these limits. So if we wanted to make this limit, increase that from 44 tons to 50 tons, I could just click on that 44 tons and just go to, and you'll see the limit here under regulation is set to 44. We can override that and change that to 50,000. And that will then, see, the less, there we go, and that applies that. The same applies to the individual axles. All the regulation limits can be changed. But ideally, we do obviously want to cater for it properly and have the regulation as an option in the drop-down. Thank you for participating, and we will look forward to getting feedback from you. You can rate this webinar. You can give us suggestions of what you'd like to see in the next webinar. Keep well and stay safe.